The tranquility of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, was shattered on the afternoon of June 29, 2025. At what seemed like an average 1:21 p.m., the Kootenai County Dispatch Center received an urgent call reporting a brush fire on Canfield Mountain, an area nestled close to town, familiar to hikers and locals alike. Wikipedia, the Daily Beast. By 2 p.m., rescue teams arrived on the western slope of the mountain, only to be met not with a raging inferno but with gunfire from a concealed sniper's perch. Wikipedia, the Daily Beast. The blaze was a trap, deliberately set to lure first responders into a kill zone. Wikipedia, India Times, the Daily Beast. The ambush claimed the lives of Battalion Chief Frank Harwood, 42, and Battalion Chief John Morrison, 52, veteran heroes serving Kootenai County and Coeur d'Alene, respectively. India Times, Reuters, ABC News. Another veteran firefighter, engineer David Tisdall, 47, was critically injured. Despite severe trauma, he managed to radio in, "I'm inside the rig. I can't move." His bravery helped hold the scene together. Wikipedia, nonstop local KHQ. As the wildfire, dubbed the Nettleton Gulch Fire, spread across 23 to 26 acres of rugged terrain, law enforcement scrambled. 300-plus officers, including the FBI and ATF, converged on the mountain. Surveillance and cell phone ping data narrowed the suspect's location. Wikipedia, Reuters, the Daily Beast. At 7:40 p.m., their hunt ended. Authorities discovered the shooter, 20-year-old Westval Rowley, dead with a shotgun beside him, apparent suicide. Wikipedia, the Daily Beast. Reuters. Mayor, firefighters, and residents declared the assault a pure act of evil, with Governor Brad Little calling it a direct assault on our brave firefighters. India Times. Wikipedia. The impact rippled far beyond fallen heroes. This was a scare that fractured the town's sense of safety. But beneath the fire and tragedy lay deeper, darker layers, patterns of online behavior, digital footprints, and sociopathic planning that hinted at cyber-enabled stalking and premeditated savagery. What drove a young man to weaponize a forest and ambush firefighters? The night of January 14, 2025 began like any other bitter winter evening in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Snow lay thick on the ground, the streets were quiet, and most families were gathered indoors, seeking warmth from the biting cold. At 10:47 p.m., the city's emergency dispatch center received a call that would set in motion one of the darkest chapters in the town's history. A frantic voice came through the line. "There's smoke, heavy smoke, coming from my neighbor's house. I think someone's trapped inside." The caller, a man identifying himself as Daniel Walsh, sounded panicked but composed enough to give an address. A single-story home on the edge of a wooded lot in a sparsely populated part of town. The dispatcher's training kicked in. This was a priority response. Within moments, tones were sounding in fire stations across the city, summoning on-duty crews to suit up. The first responders roll out. Station 3's Engine 5 was the first to head toward the address. Among its crew was Captain Tom Rains, a 17-year veteran of the department and well-known in Coeur d'Alene for his bravery and warmth. Alongside him were firefighter Laura Benson, a former EMT with a quick wit and a reputation for remaining calm under pressure, and firefighter Eric McKinney, the youngest member of the team. As they rolled through the icy streets, Rains radioed dispatch to confirm details. No one suspected the call was anything but another fire emergency, one of the hundreds they responded to each year. But what none of them knew was that the emergency waiting for them wasn't an accident. It was bait, arriving at the scene. The street was eerily quiet when Engine 5 pulled up. Smoke curled into the night sky from the side of the home, faintly illuminated by the flickering glow of flames in the windows. Snow crunched under their boots as the firefighters unloaded equipment. Laura immediately noticed something strange. There were no other cars in the driveway, no signs of frantic neighbors, no barking dogs. It was dead silent except for the crackle of fire. Captain Rains ordered the crew to mask up and prepare for entry, suspecting a possible rescue was needed. Eric went to the rear of the house to check for other access points, while Laura stayed near the front, ready to deploy the hose line. And then everything changed. The first shot. A sharp crack rang through the air. At first, Laura thought it was ice snapping in the trees. But then she heard it again. Louder, sharper, and something whizzed past her helmet. She dropped to the ground instinctively, yelling for cover. Captain Rain spun toward her, eyes wide, and shouted into his radio. "We're taking fire. This is not a safe scene. Repeat, not safe." Another shot rang out, this time hitting the side of the fire engine, leaving a clean puncture in the metal. The realization hit them instantly. This wasn't just a fire, it was an ambush. Chaos in the cold. The crew scrambled behind the truck for cover, adrenaline surging. Laura's heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the radio chatter. Somewhere in the distance, the shooter's silhouette shifted between the shadows, using the glow of the flames as a twisted stage light for his attack. The house fire, now clearly set intentionally, was spreading quickly, sending sparks into the snowy night. But no one could get close enough to extinguish it without becoming a target. Police units were dispatched immediately, but they were several minutes away. Those minutes would feel like hours. The shooter's advantage. Later, investigators would learn that the suspect had set up a sniper's position inside a neighboring shed, giving him a clear view of the driveway and front yard. He'd equipped himself with night vision gear and a high-powered rifle, tools chosen for precision and devastation. His target wasn't random. His plan was deliberate. Lure firefighters and police into a kill zone. The crew huddled low, using the fire engine as cover. They could hear the occasional crack of gunfire, each shot forcing them to press closer to the freezing pavement. The wind carried the smell of burning wood and melting plastic, mixed now with something far more sinister, the metallic tang of danger. Help on the way. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were racing in, but until they arrived, the firefighters were trapped. Every instinct screamed at them to run, but abandoning their engine, and each other, wasn't an option. Captain Rains kept his radio open, providing updates between breaths. When the first police cruiser skidded onto the scene, the shooter shifted fire toward it. Officers ducked low, returning fire toward the shed. For the first time, the firefighters saw their attacker's silhouette clearly. A tall figure in dark clothing, moving with the confidence of someone who'd rehearsed every step. And then one final shot pierced the night and everything went still. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. By the morning of October 14th, 2025, Coeur d'Alene was no longer just a small lakeside city. It was a community holding its breath. The loss of 2 firefighters in the ambush had left shockwaves that no amount of grief counseling could calm. But as the investigation unfolded, the tragedy revealed something darker. The attack had been meticulously planned for weeks, maybe months, uncovering the digital footprints. Detectives and cybercrime analysts worked around the clock, combing through the suspect's online presence. What they found painted a disturbing picture. The man, identified as Daniel Hargrove, a 42-year-old former construction worker, had been using burner social media accounts to join local community groups. But he wasn't there to chat about lost pets or yard sales. Instead, he was studying the response patterns of emergency services in Kootenai County. Through open Facebook posts, next-door updates, and even a hacked Ring camera feed from a neighbor's house, he learned exactly how long it took for fire crews to respond to various neighborhoods. Every comment, every shared live video from residents reporting a small fire was another data point for him. He wasn't just stalking. He was mapping their movements like a predator tracking prey. Investigators later discovered that Daniel had installed small, motion-activated cameras in vacant homes near his own property. These devices, connected through stolen Wi-Fi, captured real-time footage of fire trucks and police cars moving through the streets during prior incidents. The day before the ambush, on October 13th, neighbors reported seeing Daniel pacing in his driveway, chain-smoking and muttering to himself. What they didn't know was that inside his garage, he had rigged multiple propane tanks to ignite once a controlled flame reached them. He had strategically placed debris and accelerants to ensure the fire would grow quickly, luring in as many responders as possible. His online activity the night before was chilling. Searches like, how to disable firefighter breathing apparatus, police response time Coeur d'Alene, best way to block exits in a burning building. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment attack. It was the execution of a long-planned obsession, the digital alarm that never came. One of the most haunting revelations from the investigation was that at least 2 separate people noticed something suspicious online hours before the fire. A woman in a private Facebook group saw Daniel post a vague but unsettling status. "Tomorrow will be the day people finally see what they deserve." She screenshotted it, intending to send it to the police, but never did, thinking it was just another rant from a disgruntled neighbor. That hesitation would haunt her for the rest of her life. At 4:57 a.m., Daniel set his plan in motion. The fire spread exactly as he predicted. But he hadn't just counted on the flames to do the work. He was waiting with an AR-15 rifle from a concealed position. The ambush. When the first fire crew arrived, they were greeted not only by thick black smoke but by gunfire. Witnesses described hearing a sound like firecrackers, but sharper, more violent. The team tried to retreat, but Daniel had blocked the main road with his truck hours earlier, forcing them to take cover. One firefighter was hit instantly. Another tried to pull him to safety but was struck in the process. The chaos was overwhelming. Smoke obscured visibility, bullets tore through the air, and the fire roared louder with every passing second. The responding police units, already en route, realized too late that this wasn't just a fire. It was an intentional military-style trap. The blaze on Pine Hollow Road was still raging when firefighter Jason Miller radioed in for backup. It wasn't unusual for rural Idaho fires to spread quickly, but something about this one felt different. The flames burned with an unnatural intensity, like they had been fed with accelerants. Jason had seen enough house fires to know when one didn't behave naturally. From the shadows of the nearby tree line, Derek Halverson watched through a pair of military-grade night vision goggles. His breathing was slow and controlled, his finger resting just outside the trigger guard of his AR-15. This was his moment, the one he had been preparing for over the last 3 months. And to him, it wasn't just a plan, it was revenge. How Derek chose his moment. Investigators would later discover Derek had been monitoring first responders for weeks through hacked Ring cameras in the area. By hijacking residents' devices, he learned their shift schedules, call patterns, and even personal routines. The man knew exactly which firefighters would respond and how long it would take them to arrive. He also knew Jason Miller was likely to be among them, and Jason was the one he wanted most. Why Jason? Months earlier, Jason had testified in a harassment case involving Derek's estranged girlfriend. The testimony didn't convict Derek, but in his paranoid mind, it was enough to label Jason as an enemy. That was when Derek's plan began. The perfect lure. It started with a staged fire. Derek had drenched the inside of the abandoned property with gasoline and strategically placed propane tanks near load-bearing walls. When the blaze took hold, it would be fast, unpredictable, and dangerous enough to draw multiple units. But that wasn't all. Derek knew firefighters were trained to search for anyone trapped inside. So, using an old Bluetooth speaker hidden under debris, he played the sound of a woman screaming faintly in the distance. From the street, it sounded like someone was inside, desperate for help. The first shots. Jason was on the front porch when the first shot rang out. It struck the wooden railing inches from his leg, splintering it apart. He hit the ground, yelling, "Sniper! Sniper!" over his radio. Chaos erupted. Firefighters scrambled for cover, while deputies tried to identify the shooter's position. Derek fired again, this time hitting one of the fire engine's side mirrors. The reflection of emergency lights gave him away for a split second, but by the time anyone pinpointed the source, he had shifted positions. The gunfire was relentless but precise. Derek wasn't shooting wildly. He was forcing them into predictable movements, funneling them toward the open driveway where he had the clearest shot. The civilian in the crossfire. Just when officers were closing in, a terrified neighbor, later identified as 67-year-old Marion Foster, ran out from the house next door. She had been hiding in her basement after hearing the gunfire but thought she could make it to safety. Derek's scope caught her movement instantly. Jason saw it too. Without thinking, he broke from cover, sprinting toward her. Another crack of the rifle echoed, and Jason went down, clutching his shoulder. He used his good arm to push Marianne behind a fire truck, shielding her from view. The injury wasn't fatal, but it was exactly what Derek wanted. Jason was now wounded, vulnerable, and unable to escape the trap. Closing the net. SWAT was finally en route, but Derek's familiarity with police radio chatter meant he knew their estimated arrival. He had minutes, maybe less, to finish what he started. As the flames swallowed the building, he crawled closer through a narrow drainage ditch, his sights locked on Jason. This was supposed to be the kill shot, but something happened Derek didn't expect. Jason looked straight at him. Despite the night, the smoke, and the chaos, their eyes locked for a brief, chilling moment. Jason didn't look afraid. He looked defiant. And in that moment, the trap Derek had set for his prey began to close in on him instead. The trial of Thomas Rayburn began on a crisp winter morning in Kootenai County. News crews lined the courthouse steps, broadcasting live to a nation still stunned by the events in Coeur d'Alene. For many residents, this was the first time they would see the man accused of luring first responders to their deaths. He entered the courtroom wearing an ill-fitting suit, his face showing neither remorse nor defiance, just a strange, unreadable calm. Prosecutors laid out the case with methodical precision. They detailed how Rayburn had meticulously planned the ambush, searching online for flammable materials for quick fires, and how to disable emergency vehicle cameras, using mapping software to identify the narrow driveway that would limit firefighter escape routes, purchasing the ammunition and weapons weeks before the attack. But the most chilling evidence came from Rayburn's own digital footprint. Investigators recovered emails and encrypted messages where he described wanting to make them pay for what he claimed was harassment by emergency services, accusations that no one could substantiate. The families take the stand. The most heart-wrenching moments came when the victims' families testified. The widow of Fire Captain Jared Ellis described getting the call no spouse ever wants to receive. "I thought they were telling me he'd been injured in a fire. I didn't think someone would murder him for trying to help." Her words cracked the courtroom's fragile composure, leaving jurors visibly shaken. The parents of paramedic Lucas Ward spoke about their son's dream of saving lives. "He survived war zones overseas," his father said, voice trembling. "But he didn't survive his own hometown." A chilling confession. Midway through the trial, the prosecution dropped a bombshell. A recorded jailhouse conversation in which Rayburn admitted his actions were deliberate. "I knew the fire would bring them. I wanted them to feel fear before it ended." This statement eliminated any doubt about his intent. The verdict. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just under 5 hours. They returned with a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all counts, including 2 counts of first-degree murder, multiple counts of attempted murder, and arson. When the judge read the sentence, life without the possibility of parole, the courtroom erupted in quiet sobs and whispers. For the families, there was some relief, but it wasn't closure. Nothing could bring their loved ones back. The town's recovery. Coeur d'Alene became a symbol of both tragedy and resilience. In the months after the trial, a memorial garden was built near the station where Ellis and Ward had worked. Firefighters from across the country traveled to attend its dedication, lining the streets with red and black ribbons. Social media campaigns under the hashtag Honor the Fallen spread nationwide, with donations pouring in to support the victims' families. Still, beneath the public mourning, there was unease. People asked, could something like this happen again? Technology, danger, and the unanswered questions. The case also sparked a broader conversation about technology's role in violent crimes. Lawmakers in Idaho began drafting bills to increase monitoring of online threats against first responders. Experts warned that cyberstalking, targeted harassment, and technology-enabled ambushes were on the rise. Former FBI profiler Dana Gentry put it bluntly, Rayburn's case is the future of violent crime. Meticulous planning, tech-assisted targeting, and a single person's grudge amplified into mass tragedy. The final reflection. In the end, Coeur d'Alene would never be the same. The fire that was meant to lure victims had instead lit a spark of unity among its people. But as the memorial candles faded, one truth remained. Violence had entered their quiet town through the most unexpected door, and no one could ever completely close it again. The story of the firefighter ambush would serve as both a warning and a testament. A warning of the dangers that come when hatred meets technology, and a testament to the bravery of those who run toward danger, even when it costs them everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell.